Good evening, ladies as well as gentlemen. Papa Boris here playing some more Pathfinder Adventures. In this video, I'm going to create a 6-player party for my new legendary playthrough. Starting from way in the beginning, this will be my first time doing a video series with 6 characters on legendary difficulty. In fact, I've not done any series on legendary difficulty, so there you have it. I am only going to create characters in this video and create their starting decks, so if you don't care about any of that, go ahead and skip to the next video where we actually start to play the first scenario. It is going to take some time to do that because making all these parties is kind of a slow process, so let's go ahead and start into it. The way that I actually wanted to do a 6-player legendary run for quite a while, and I was not quite sure how I was going to make the party because I already did a 6-player run through with my favorite characters, and then a 5-player playthrough with all the characters that were left over after I had picked my 6 favorites, so I wasn't quite sure what I would do for this 6-player run. Well, Obsidian kind of saved my bacon by creating the Steam version, in which if you had bought the season pass on the mobile version, you got all of the character alts for free. And these are like alternate equipment sets for the existing characters that would normally have cost $60 on mobile, so I'm really glad I didn't buy that, because instead I get it free now. And if you have, bought the season pass on mobile previously to the game being released on Steam, then definitely go ahead and get it on Steam and take advantage of that ambassador program. But anyway, that not only gives me these alternate equipment sets to play with, but it also makes it very easy for me to create my party, because all I'm going to do to choose the 6 characters is pick the ones that have the best equipment sets. That's what it's going to be. So we're going to go ahead and create a new character here. Our first addition to the party is going to be Sela. Her formal character is really strong. She loses a point of melee. It goes down from 2 to 1, but her divine skill goes under charisma. She gets the diplomacy skill, so you'll be putting points in strength and then some points in diplomacy, and that's gonna make her a little bit more of a well-rounded character. The other thing I like about this is that now she loses one of her armors to get an item, which is very nice, because the paladin previously was not allowed to have any items, and that was very annoying, because it'd be nice to have like some damage blocking item, or like a spyglass or something that goes nicely with her hero power, and now she can finally do that. I'm also, you might notice I'm not going to go over every single change, because I did make an entire video going over all the changes and giving my thoughts on them. So like, for example, for Sela, I didn't mention that her stats changed a little bit. It really isn't that big of a deal. I'm not going to go over all the changes. If you want all my thoughts, then go ahead and check out that video in which I review the character equipment sets. So Sela's definitely going to be someone that we have. She gets a penalty to melee, which is obviously a big deal, but then I like that she gets the item card and the bonuses to charisma, with divine being there, and she also gets the diplomacy skill. So I'm looking forward to playing with this. And I'm glad that Sela was one of the good alternate equipment sets, because Sela, with her ability to, let me actually show this, with their ability to scout and get essentially free explorations by putting boons in the bottom of the location deck, gives extra time to the party every time this happens, and that's obviously very nice on legendary difficulty when time is going to be of the essence. So let's go ahead and create her, and I guess, what should I name? I guess I'll just go for Alt Sela to differentiate her from the other ones. You can actually switch back and forth among the equipment sets, so you can like go back and forth, but for simplicity's sake in this run, I'm just gonna turn on the alternate set and keep it on. Okay, now can I build her deck right now? Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and just manage her deck. Well, I'll do this with the characters afterwards. Oh Jesus, this could actually be kind of a problem, because I didn't realize this stash went across parties. Well, I'm not going to cheat. I'm not going to give any characters these crazy, Sahedron items from Adventure Deck 6. Yeah, I'll go ahead and build her now, and we might change things later. So, collection? Is that where I can? Oh, thank God. I was afraid I was gonna be stuck with this shit. So, yeah, we're going to go ahead and get rid of the short sword, which is total garbage, and we'll put in a long sword, which is the best melee weapon. Now, do I have, like, here, like some kind of superior longsword or something? Nope. Okay. I am gonna, in this run, use everything I can to my advantage. I'm not going to limit myself to just the base game, because the legendary difficulty is quite hard indeed, and I'm not gonna hold back. Cure is a fine starting spell. Armor, obviously we're not gonna have a wooden shield. Let's go ahead and put on some chainmail. Looks like I might run out of armors. I'm not exactly sure. We get an item, which is very cool, because Sela normally does not start with one. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of this mattock, because this mattock is mostly garbage. And think about what I want to include. Somebody wants the Amulet of Life, probably not Sela. Thieves' Tools obviously are nice. Yeah, I'm going to give her some Thieves' Tools. This is a really great thing to start her with because she, with her D4 on Dexterity, can have a tough time with barriers. So giving her this is actually really, really nice. I don't want that because she does. Why would you give her Night Watch? This is such a bad default item. She doesn't even have the perception skills. That's really stupid. I will give her just a Sage for some generic buffs. In fact, Strength or Constitution is not that good. We'll give her a Troubadour. And a Sage, and then Blessings, we don't have any choices. Nope, okay. So that's that. So Seela's taken care of. I don't want to banish any of these cards. Kind of weird that they make you do that and that the stash is the same across all your parties. I would expect every party to have their own stash. But in any case, let's pick a die for her. What would make sense for a Paladin? Something kind of formal looking. It is formal. Seela, why don't we go for the Edge of Midnight? There we go. Let's add our next character here. So the other character that really impressed me from the character equipment sets is Ezrin. So Scholar Ezrin, like Seela, loses a point of his primary skill, which in a way is even worse for a caster to lose a point of Arcane than for a melee fighter to lose a point of melee. Because melee just, you know, fucks you up on your combat checks, and that's mostly it. But for Ezrin, he's using this to pick up spells, he's using this to recharge spells, he's using this on his combat checks, and he's sometimes going to use this to close locations. You're never going to have the melee skill to close a location, unless of course you're fighting a monster to close the location. So this actually affects him quite a bit. This is kind of a bad nerf, but he does lose a point of Dexterity to gain a point of Wisdom, and that's good, because it helps him pick up Divine spells for those sweet, sweet extra explorations. And then the really exciting thing is in the powers. So Ezrin normally has this power, which is that whenever he casts a spell that's arcane, he looks at the top card of his deck, and if it is, oh geez, I thought I could show you them side by side, but apparently not. And if it's a spell, if the top card of his deck is a spell, he gets to put it in his hand. While Scholar Ezrin not only gets to put spells into his hand, but items that have the magic trait. So early in the game, this isn't that great because you're not going to have that many items with the magic trait, but at the end, or by the end, when all your items are magic items, this makes a huge difference. Because Ezrin, normally, by the way, starts with 3 items. The Scholar Ezrin starts with 4, so you can get up to 7 items, and they're all going to be magical, or almost all going to be magical. So being able to put them into your hand from the top of your deck after casting a spell is really great. Scholar Ezrin also doesn't have any weapons, which is amazing because this weapon is just a total waste of time, and I hate it, and I never want to draw it, and so it's nice to finally be rid of it. So this is a nice, nice upgrade over the original Ezrin. Well, not an upgrade, because losing an Arcane is probably big enough nerf to outweigh everything else, or at least even out everything else, but it's cool. It's like an actual trade-off, and it makes the character feel different to play with. Let's go ahead and create him. We'll call him Alt Ezrin. I'm being super creative with these names. Let's go ahead and give him a die. Ooh, Guardian Blue. That's pulsating. I guess he's not really that much of a Guardian. Maybe we'll go for Vortex, because he's going to use some force spells. Let's go ahead and make his deck. Obviously, the dice are non-binding decisions, and I can change them later. So, we're going to... Oh, yeah, here we go. Ezrin. Spells starting out is a little rough, because all the base spells are basically total garbage. I definitely don't want Sleep, because that's just terrible. I don't want Arcane Armor because it's terrible. Stride I might actually keep, because on Legendary, when there's, you know, movement is restricted, being able to move somebody around can actually be really helpful. And I definitely want 4 combat spells, so let's go ahead and put in another Force Missile. Other than that, is there anything good here? Strength for buffing up some melee characters, I guess, would be nice. And then do I care about Invisibility? I'm just not going to bother with Evasion. I'm just not going to fucking bother. I just don't want to deal with it. It's never satisfying. So I can either stick with 4 combat spells, or I can either take a 5th combat spell to have a little bit more leeway, or I can just take another Strength, because Amiri's going to be in this party, and Kyra's going to be in this party, so spoilers. So I might actually be able to use both Strengths, even though it's not that exciting. There is an Eloquence here. I guess I could take this. Sione's going to be in here, so this can help her. But no, we'll just... Yeah, you know what? Let's break it up. No, I'll take the 2 Strengths. There's going to be a lot of melee fighting here, and I can always change that later if I want. Here, let's get rid of Blaststone and the Bracers. I'm going to put in some Caltrops in case I, need to get away from a tough situation. And other than that, he'll take the Amulet of Life for some damage resistance. Oh yeah, allies. I definitely don't want the fucking Night's Watch. God damn it, stop with that Night's Watch. We'll take a couple of sages to help him pick up some spells. And I really don't like these standard bears. We'll take a troubadour as well. And that's that for Ezrin. Next up, we're gonna get Kyra in here. Kyra is actually not one of my favorite characters in the original game, but I really like her alternate version. So in her alternate version, notice what happens to her strength and her melee. It goes from d6 plus 2 to d8 plus 3, so she's actually like a competent fighter. Granted, by the end of the game, her inability to boost her own combat checks will still make her a little bit ineffective, but still, d8 plus 3 is pretty damn solid. I mean, it's better as a default than the paladins now. Her wisdom die drops from a d12 to a d10, but the thing about this game is that Kyra, and I tried this in my heroic playthrough, just does not work as a divine blaster because there aren't enough divine combat spells. And on top of that, Kyra has no way to boost her combat check. So even a d12 plus 2 plus, 4, let's say, divine combat is just not good enough to kill those monsters at the end of the game reliably, especially if you're playing on a harder difficulty and you might have a wildcard power that increases the difficulty. So I don't mind just putting her all the way into strength and having wisdom to just be kind of a backup. On top of that, in her cards list, there's a nice difference here. She loses an armor to gain a weapon, which is just a straight up upgrade. So this puts her in a nice melee focus and I think makes the character better overall. So let's go ahead and call her Alt Kyra. And let's give her a die. Well, I don't know. Let's go ahead and do Nathan's Tribute and manage her deck. Okay, so I have to remember I need to click over to the collection and then click on Kyra. Let's pick up some weapons. So I don't think I want her to use a long spear. That doesn't really make much sense for her because I'd like to have something that she can discard for a bonus as opposed to something that just stays in her hand. Quarterstaffs are obviously garbage. So we'll give her... Wait a minute, she doesn't have weapon proficiency at the beginning, so she can't use long swords. Right. Okay, so we're gonna load her up on maces then. Spells, mending and guidance are total garbage. We're gonna take inflict. And I think I'm actually gonna take another cure. We'll do 2 cures and 1 inflict because I am gonna work on using these weapons to fight now that I'm actually better at melee. And then inflict can be a nice little backup in case I don't have a weapon on hand at a certain time. Chainmail's fine. Holy water is of course total garbage. We'll give her caltrops. I might switch that off and give it to someone else. I'm not sure, but for now that should be fine. You can metagame things. Oh, wait a minute, what am I talking about? Thieves tools. I want these thieves tools. All the thieves tools should get used. There's only 3 of them, but I definitely want them to get used. And she, like Scylla, does not have good dexterity. Okay, I guess somebody needs these standard bearers. And I guess it's gonna be Kyra. Okay, we'll just be discarding them most of the time to explore anyways. The standard bearer is a little less bad for Kyra than for other people because she does have the fortitude skill on constitution. I don't know how much I would ever care about making a constitution check to pick up a boon, but there it is. Alright, so next up... Hello? There we go. We're gonna go ahead and throw in Harsk. Now, Harsk is a character that I'm really torn about because I love him, but I recognize that he's not very good. The reason he's not very good is that he doesn't have any way to boost his own combat checks. So it's very frustrating. By the end of the game, this d8 plus 3 range skill just doesn't cut it to reliably take down villains, henchmen, or even, frankly, some of the normal deck monsters. But I do like the alternate equipment set. It's just really, really nice. So this stupid and completely worthless d12 plus 2 fortitude skill is toned down a lot, down to a d10 plus 1. And in exchange, his wisdom goes up to a d8, which is really, really good. And his survival goes up to a plus 3, which not only makes more sense for a Dwarven Ranger, but is really good because towards the end of the game, you might recall, survival is quite the important skill. There's a variety of places where you have to make survival checks. So getting an extra die size from a d6 to a d8 and an extra plus 1 just makes Harsk overall a much better contender for closing off some of those locations. On top of that, Harsk actually starts with a higher hand size, from 5 to 6. I don't know why. The other changes were good enough, but he just has a higher hand size now, which is obviously amazing. And on the card side, he does lose a weapon in order to gain an ally. Now, this is actually very good because it gives him an extra explore. And his favorite card type is weapon, so he's probably not going to run out of those. So it's just an all-around nice package, and I could not, on a clear conscience, keep him out of my party, even though I probably recognize that he's not someone you'd want in an optimal party, just because he can't really handle himself very well. Okay, well, we'll give him something nice and green, so some mountain fog there, and build him a deck. We're not going to have Mariziel in this party, the rogue, so I don't have to worry about sharing ranged weapons. We're not even going to have Lem, so I absolutely have no worries whatsoever about sharing ranged weapons, so we'll just give Harsk all the best stuff. So definitely crossbows all the way, because the short bows are garbage. They're just worse than a crossbows. As for armor, leather is fine. Thieves' tools are fine. Don't think I want a crowbar and the holy water, though. There's more thieves' tools. I don't want to get greedy. We'll leave those for someone else who doesn't start with them. I could, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go ahead and give him a charisma potion. And this is a bit metagamey because there is a location in the first scenario that closes on a stealth check. Otherwise, stealth is not that useful. I could give him this just to, you know, help close it. No, let's not be quite so metagamey. We'll give him the Sage's Journal for a D4 bonus to henchmen or villains. Obviously, that's not very much, but in the early game, a D4 is pretty solid. He does have the survival skill, so the guide is not a totally terrible option. I don't remember how often survival is used. I guess we'll take her just so we can have something that isn't, like, you know, we can take a card that isn't contested by other people. Crow seems garbage. Let's take a guard for some damage blocking. And a bonus to perception could maybe theoretically come in handy. I'm not sure. Remember, Harsk has the ability to recharge cards to help other people's combat checks. So he's the one that you want to give all the situational cards that normally would clog somebody's hand. Because if he doesn't need those cards in a particular scenario, Harsk doesn't give a shit. He can just recharge them and help somebody out. Wait, why does he have this? Is this what I gave him? Is that really what I chose for him? No, that's not what I chose. Oh, yeah, it is. It was just a graphical glitch. Okay, cool. So I'll take a new character here. Okay, so of all the equipment sets, there was one more that I thought was really spectacular, and that was Sione's. So she goes from Arcane being D12 plus 2 to being D10 plus 3. So that stays the same. Now, it does make her diplomacy worse. She goes from D12 plus 2 diplomacy to D10 plus 1. So she's not quite the diplomacy queen that she used to be. However, she does get a nice compensation for it. First of all, she now actually improves her blast ability. It used to be a D6, now it's a 2D4, and it also gets the cold trait in addition to the fire and magic. Now the cold trait is not that often going to be helpful, but going from a D6 to 2D4 is definitely a big deal because that increases the average roll by 1.5, and it's good because this is a pretty weak ability in general, I think, so having it be a little bit stronger makes her a better-rounded character. On top of that, and this was one of my favorite things about her, she goes from 3 spells to 4, which is just frickin' spectacular. She is someone who automatically recharges spells, and so she wants as many spells as possible, so getting an extra one is nice. It gives her some more wiggle room to have both combat spells and some nifty utility spells that can be automatically recharged. So that's cool. I'm going to have her. Let's go ahead and click Create. Let's give her the extremely creative name of Alt Sione. And I guess we should give her a dye that reflects her fire and frostiness. I can do Guardian Blue, even though it has the word Guardian in it. It's very frosty looking. I do love the Typhoon dice. Those are awesome. And the Fiery Core. Oh, man, that is a bitchin' die. Alright, we'll give her the, Typhoon, I guess. What is Ezrin rolling? This thing isn't that cool. We'll give him the Fiery Core. That is a sweet-ass die. Oh, man, look at that. Okay. So that's that. Let's go ahead and make her deck. I don't know why I clicked on her first, because you can just click the Manage Deck button and select anybody you want. But there it is, if the game would just load. I don't think building her deck is going to be too complicated. It seems like in the digital version, whatever the rulebook says are a character's starting cards you kind of get for free. They're not taken out of your vault, which is interesting. But let's go ahead and build her spells. I don't want invisibility. Eloquence. It can be used as a kind of buff, I guess, on herself. I guess there could be times where I would regret not having an evasion spell, but I am willing to take that chance. Let's go ahead and just load her up on combat spells, and then her extra spell, I guess, will be this one, which she can use to buff. Wait, this doesn't make any sense at all, because you can only play one spell per combat, so if you don't play this before you go in, you're not going to be able to use this. Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. This would only help her pick up allies. It wouldn't actually help in combat. Alright, I guess then in that case, I'll take another stride, so I have 2 strides in my party, in case people need to get around more. Okay, she does not have the Thieves' Tools, so I'm going to get rid of some of this garbage, and definitely give her Thieves' Tools. Other than that, I guess maybe a Codex to help pick up boons if she finds a good spell. I don't know. She can always pitch it to use as a fireball. Oh, wow, this is a garbage and a half popsicle. All right, let's give her the last Sage. Give her a Troubadour. This guide makes no sense because she doesn't have the survival skill. I guess I could give her a Guard and just use it for damage blocking or throw it to a fireball. Fine, I'll give her a Standard Bearer. I don't know. The allies at this point are mostly just useful for their extra explorers. As long as you pick one that has the line that says, discard this card to explore your location, you're fine. Now, these were the 5 equipment sets that I thought were good, but I do need a 6th character, so this one's going to be kind of at my discretion. I'm going to go ahead and add someone who wasn't terrible. There were 2 characters who I thought were fine. Their equipment sets weren't great, but they weren't bad either. Those were Mariziel and Amiri. And I'm obviously going to go ahead and grab Amiri because even though most of the changes are not that significant, obviously you want Amiri in Legendary difficulty because her movement ability is incredible for working around the movement constraints on Legendary difficulty. When she gets a power feat that allows her to not only move to a different location at the end of her turn, but also pull somebody to that location, it's incredible because while her own movement is subject to the movement constraints of Legendary difficulty, this is not. So this can save your party an incredible amount of time by getting people over to the right place and not having to move to a particular location, and it bypasses all the movement rules. On top of that, even if you don't have any particular use for this, she can always use this to pull Sela away from a location that Sela has closed or already scouted, and let Sela scout another location. So it's a really, really useful ability. You saw how it got used in my 6-player playthrough on regular difficulty. So given that these are the 2 equipment sets that are average, I'm gonna pick Amiri's, and getting a bonus survival, you know, it's nice. The bad equipment sets, in my opinion, were Valeros's, Lem's, Linny's, and Sage, and I thought they all legitimately had bad alternate forms. So I feel like I am not being too cheaty McCheaty face by picking Amiri for my final spot. Let's go ahead and give her a die. What does she want? Well, let's see. She's a barbarian. I mean, I guess she could have used the fiery core because she's, you know, raging. Well, let's go ahead and let's make her a guardian. Yeah, she's a guardian blue. You know, that doesn't really seem to fit at all. No. I'm gonna go ahead and make her amber. Yeah, that's a little better. Okay, cool. Now, oh no, wait, I needed to manage her deck. I hope it'll let me do that because crap. I clicked the arrow to proceed instead of the one that takes me to deck management. It should let me still manage your deck. Yes, manage decks. Not to be confused with managing dicks. I actually could use some of those legendary allies. They're probably better than like a standard bearer. Let me take a look here at these legendary things. Ooh, there's blessings in here too. Okay, let's take a look. What do we got? Add 1 check to any trait. Okay, that's dumb. That's dumb. But you can explore, and if you encounter a boon or a non-villain, non-henchman bane, that's so nifty. Ah, that's really nifty. Okay, someone had someone had something stupid. Kyra had the standard bearer. Okay. Okay. There. Now, can you please give me that guy? And then Amiri, I don't want a guide. For fuck's motherfucking bitch-ass cunt wagon. Okay. Let's go ahead and give Amiri recharge. Fortitude. Okay, Fortitude or melee. Cool. Okay, so we'll give her a dare. And then Shuffle a random card. Oh, that's a healing thing. That's actually really quite good. And it works on Divine. So maybe Sela can take it? Oh, for buttermilk pancake crackers. Okay, so she'll take Pallegina. I know there's multiple copies of these, but for thematic reasons, I'll just take one of each. And then I can give somebody another sage. No? I guess not. Have I used all the sages? I'm not seeing a whole lot of sages. Oh, there's 3 sages. Okay, I guess I've seen all the sages. Okay, so that'll do it. What's in the stash? Oh, it's not showing me what's in the stash. Well then, whatever. Let me move on. I can't move on. What's happening? Oh, I need another ally for Amiri. Right. Alright, we'll take a standard bearer, because whatever. Okay. Oh, invisibility went into the stash for some reason? That's bizarre. I don't know how that happened. But, okay, I guess I'll keep it in the stash in case I regret not having an evasion spell for some reason. It's weird that it's letting me put loot cards in the stash and carry them across parties, because that can actually let you duplicate loot cards. Seems bizarre. I feel like every party should have their own stash. Well, anyway, that's it for now. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the character creation process, and I'll be back soon to actually play with these bitches, starting in Brigandoom. Take care.